You're muted, Rachel.
That makes a lot of sense. Any announcements?
I've got one for the fairly narrow set of people for whom it might be relevant and who don't already know, which may not even exist, but the Heliophysics Big Year special issue for Frontiers, the deadline has been extended once again. So get those papers in. I think it's now to beginning of October. But
Okay.
good collection coming in. I myself have been working very hard on one for the long path measurements, and we have some beautiful pictures to show you guys when it's done. Very excited.
That's awesome, Christina.
Okay. Any other announcements? See, I don't see Bill on today. And I know Gary sent some announcements / updates from email. But he is also not going to be on today. Christina, did you have any charrette stuff you wanted to talk about?
None in particular this week, just because I've been mostly on the paper. But the site remains open. I can take a quick look at what people have, I suppose. Let's see. All right. Yeah, it looks like we got a few people submitting things yesterday, which is good. I can just share the screen here. Unrelated pretty eclipse picture. Okay, there we go. Yep, so here's the list of submissions. So we last met on looks like on the 4th. This was all of ours. And then there's some on the 5th, on the 6th, on the 10th. So I may want to I'll send some reminders, and I think having it show up in the newsletter will help a lot. Here's kind of the initial set of things that people have posted. And if we look at what people are actually saying, yeah, here's some various points. This was probably one person. This is all Gwyn. Wonderful. Yeah, automated synthetic spectrograms, automated with in-band check with feedback to station operator, auto feedback to stations on data quality. So, yeah, Gwyn definitely understood the assignment. So that's hopefully we'll be able to get more data of this kind about what people are looking for, and keep telling your friends, and I'll drop a link in the chat. And that's pretty much all I got for now.
That's really good. I think Gwyn's input is going to be particularly valuable.
So Gwyn and I, when we had our conversation last week, we were nerding out in the one-to-one chat about specific figures from oceanography textbooks.
Oh, wow.
Because there's one that I've become kind of obsessed with from Talley et al. 2006. And I actually think I have a copy of it. Yes, I have. I will just drop this into the chat because it might give people interesting ideas. So actually I can share my screen and then I can point at it. So I want to get a version of this into open space because of course I do. But what this is it is the logarithmic time scale versus the logarithmic length scale for this is for oceanographic phenomena, but you can pretty easily see how you might extend it into geospace and into space. And you can see that generally, right, there's kind of a one-to-one relationship between things being large and being long-lived, but not total. So tsunamis, for example, are big, but they're quick.
Mhm.
And so what I want to be able to do in open space is there's this window now where you can like click where you want to go and it moves the terminator for you. It's really cool. And then it'll show you sort of this view of what angle you're looking at. I want to be able to have this little icon showing where I am and just have it change my space settings and how high I am above the earth. So if I want to be able to look at hurricanes, I would just click to the point where it would say, you know, here's about the time and space scale you care about for hurricanes. And then it would be like, okay, so my time scale is now like on the order of 12 hours per second. And I am about far enough up that the included angle from my camera is the field of view will be like, you know, 500 kilometers or whatever. And of course you could also have that for, you know, traveling ionospheric disturbances and other stuff that we want to look at. You know, if I want to look at the Terminator, just like take me to 12 hours per second or something. And so yeah, I would like to sort of fill this kind of thing out. This was I also had a good discussion with people yesterday about like what does the word mesoscale even mean? Because we don't totally agree on it among different fields. And I think it leads to some confusion. The other thing I think leads to some confusion is the disconnect about you know, the phrases that we use in radio for high frequency, very high frequency, etc. Ultra high, ultra low are different from the ones that are used in magnetometry. And I think that this leads to confusion because I've been trying to do stuff with magnetometers and I'm realizing that there's like issues in the literature with the way that people classify these bounds. So I saw this picture and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And anyway, Gwyn and I were talking about this because of course his background is in oceanography where they've been already kind of thinking in these terms. So I think there's some useful stuff that we could borrow. But yeah.
I think that's particularly useful, Christina. I get the question a lot, and I got it last night at the talk. What's the people ask me what is the optimal spacing for these personal space weather station nodes? And I know that's a question you're interested in. And similarly, people ask, well, you know, how much data do you need? And what's the time resolution of it? And I tell people that you know, the answer really varies depending on what you're trying to look for. You know, certain things you need a very dense network, very close together, and other things you need a much larger network, and density is less important. And similarly with time scales, some things you need long time scales, some things short time scales are just fine. And I think people sometimes don't appreciate that, and maybe coming up with a figure like this for um, for the ionosphere and for our project could be really useful, because then it could help us to say, okay, if you're doing this type of science, these are the sampling density and sampling rates that you need, whereas if you're doing this other type of science, this is sufficient. And it
Yeah.
can help you to know what you can look at with what you have.
There's also a point that David Kasdan raised. We were talking about some of this stuff recently, and I don't know if you've ever encountered the issue of stiffness in systems of differential equations, but if you have phenomena where like you're looking at really, really big differences in that like your time step versus the different phenomena that you're looking at, you can get into a situation where your ODE solver lies to you. And so you need to like know to switch to a different solver, basically is the short answer. Rachel, I see, has her head in her hands because I'm trying to do this without saying the word Jacobian, and as a result, I am doing it badly. But Rachel, is that a fair summation for the scientist who just wants the plots to work, or is there something else I need to be saying?
No, you're doing fine. I just have a tinge of a headache this morning.
Okay, are you sure?
Not
Anyway, so yeah, so we were talking about that in relevance to some of this stuff too. But yeah, so anyway, I'm obsessed with that figure. Eventually I'll make it through to chapter 3. And I'll understand the thing that Gwen just asked me in the direct chat about Raspberry waves. But I don't yet. I kind of want to write an article. Maybe it'll end up being a newsletter item, who knows, but I kind of want to write something that's like mesoscale. At this point, I'm too afraid to ask, and just try to like summarize all this stuff in somewhat one place, because every time that I've like made a taken a question like that and made like a chart of like, okay, here's something from the literature, what does this say? Here's something from the literature, what does this say? I end up with like really uncomfortable variation in things that I thought were pretty settled as to what the numbers were. So anyway. But yeah, the question of density of the network would absolutely be relevant.
okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the charrette?
If you have any, put them in the charrette.
That's fair. It's a good place for that. Okay.
Thank you.
I believe the only other person with updates is Gary, who is not going to be present for
On vacation.
Hmm?
He's going on vacation up to Quebec.
Yeah. But he did drop a line in the email. One being an update on the Meteor Scatter QSO party. So he says that 15 stations have uploaded their WAV file and 72 stations have completed their entry process, which is very exciting. And then he also requested that we start talking about Whisper Sond deployment at some point in some place.
Yes. I think we really need Gary to come back to talk about the WhisperSon deployment, because he has a survey of who wants WhisperSons, and I do have a stock of WhisperSons here at Scranton. So I think what we'll have to figure out is, okay, a couple of things. I still need to order the antennas for those. I should double check with Paul Elliott. I think we want the end-fed half-wave antennas for them. But once I order that, we pretty much have everything in stock that we could get these things out to people. Then we're going to have to just come up with documentation or figure out how we get them configured properly for the people we send them to. But we do have those WhisperSons in stock here.
Okay.
The other announcement that we should make is, I think the reason Bill Engelke is probably not here is because today is the big day that they're switching over the personal space weather station data server at the University of Alabama. And so the Alabama address is going to change from pswsnetwork.caps.ua.edu to pswsnetwork.engr.ua.edu, which I think is a much more appropriate address for the system. Anyway, so but they're going through that server transition today, so Bill's probably on standby for that. And so we can expect some turbulence as we're trying to access data or upload data over the next few days. And then hopefully things will settle down and it will all go smoothly. And then we'll have our new upgraded server ready to use. That's what we hope to hear from Bill next week. And he did say that the old web address should work for at least a month or so. So there's a transition period. So I'm not going to make any changes on my side of things until I hear from him saying that the new system is in fact up and running. And then I will go and change all of my URLs.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I think that's about it for now.
Any other business?
I can just tell you on my side, I have a lot of other things that are going on, but there's no real updates on them yet. I'm just trying to keep them going forward.
Okay. This may be a record short meeting then.
Nathaniel,
Yes, yes, Bob.
I need to talk about, I tried to fire up the Whisper Demon. And I
Yes.
can't get anywhere besides the login.
Okay. Here, I'll stop the recording.
Well, we need to get together, or
Yeah.
I need to talk to somebody.